Hi, my name is Taylor Baker, and I'm here to talk about a very important subject, one that permeates nearly all levels of historical and political discussion both here and around the world. I'm here to talk about the United States and regime change. Now, the Encyclopedia Britannica states that regime change is the overthrow of a government considered illegitimate by an external force and its replacement with a new government according to the ideas or interests promoted by that force. I'm not here to say that regime change is purely an invention of the United States. Nearly every world power has dabbled in the art of overthrowing governments. I'm merely here to highlight the impact that the United States has had on the world as we know it, and how some of our modern problems aren't caused by chance but by the actions of our forefathers. In 1795, the islands of Hawaii unified into a centralized independent government. This opened up the new Kingdom of Hawaii to international trade and recognition, and along with it, American businessmen looking to invest financially in the islands. By 1887, the monarchy that once ruled was reduced to nearly no power by a constitution signed under the threat of violence, and by 1894, Hawaiians, consisting mostly of American businessmen and U.S. Marines, staged a coup to overthrow the last Queen of Hawaii, creating the Republic of Hawaii, which was then annexed by the United States about 4 years later. This is one of the first examples of U.S. involvement in regime change, the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii by the United States government and its annexation by the United States according to the ideas or interests promoted by the U.S. This is also one of the several instances where regime change worked out, and by worked out I mean didn't accidentally destabilize the entire region for decades afterward, leading to thousands of casualties and power struggles. Things don't always work out so well. In Lester D. Langley's book, The Banana Wars, An Inner History of the American Empire, he details a series of invasions and interventions by the United States in the early 20th century. These were focused mainly in the Caribbean and Central America, namely Panama, Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Mexico, Haiti, and Honduras. The United States' official motives were things like preventing corruption, fighting instability, and peacekeeping, but it was ultimately a battle to protect American business interests and secure the United States' sphere of influence. Hundreds of soldiers and thousands of civilians died in the Banana Wars, and several countries were left in the hands of United States-backed dictatorships simply because they supported American business interests like the United Fruit Company. These are all examples of regime change, the overthrow of Central American governments by the United States and the replacement with new governments according to the ideas or interests promoted by the United States. In 1951, Mohammad Mossadegh was elected as the Prime Minister of Iran. He focused mostly on social reforms like unemployment, healthcare, and land reform. He believed in being secular, the secular independent Iranian government, which is very hard because Iranian oil reserves were historically owned by the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, now commonly known as BP. Iran was receiving less than 18% of the profit, with Great Britain receiving the majority. With wages that were 50 cents a day, there was no vacation days, no sick leave, no disability compensation. The workers lived in shanty towns. Mossadegh used this to nationalize the oil industry and seize its assets for the country, declaring that the Iranian people were the rightful owners and that the revenue should be used to combat poverty, disease, and backwardness among our people. The British government immediately took action against Iran, boycotting their oil, imposing sanctions, and blockading the Gulf of Persia. Britain, afraid of losing its biggest overseas financial asset, the United States, afraid of communism, and the Shah of Iran, afraid of losing his power to Mossadegh and the people, staged a coup against the once beloved Prime Minister. The coup initially failed, but through bribing officials, reporters, and businessmen, and pretty much doing exactly what we're accusing Russia of now doing, Prime Minister Mossadegh was eventually removed from power, imprisoned, and replaced. The Shah of Iran gained power once again, and this increase in power, pro-Western policies, and increased corruption eventually led to the Iranian Revolution in 1979. The secular independent society that Mossadegh envisioned gave way to one ruled by authoritarianism, Western interests, and eventually a violent revolution. Many other Middle Eastern countries have faced similar attempts at regime change. Many countries around the world have faced similar attempts at regime change, with their histories changed and their destinies altered by the United States for United States interests. As a country, we tend to use our place as a superpower to defend our actions and our way of life, but we need to recognize that our system and superiority has been propped up by the destruction of many other systems. When we look at other countries and declare them things like shitholes and savages or enemies that need to be dealt with, we also need to look at what we may have done to destabilize them. We need to look at why people are immigrating from destabilized areas and why certain countries hate us. I've only scratched the surface of America's interference overseas. The CIA didn't admit its involvement in the 1953 Iranian coup until just 5 years ago. Who knows how many other problems we've caused? Every time you hear a politician talk about overthrowing a regime or nation building, remember that the outcomes are unpredictable and can lead to problems lasting decades. Here are some sources to find out more, and thank you for your time.